Okay, if you want an AM transmitter that's a bit smaller and less expensive, you can go with this. This is by Cliop. K-L-E-O-P, I think. I'll put a link in the description. So that's the LCD where it displays the frequency. You've got the rotary encoder right here. And here's the transmitter. These are a lot more affordable. This thing's about $239, I think. $240. I think the shipping is free. So it's not too expensive. This thing is a 10 watt, I believe it's a 10 watt carrier, 40 watt PEP. So it's got 10 watts and then 40 watts of peak. So it's pretty good for like if you're just getting into AM, you don't know what it's going to be like, you want to just experiment with things and you don't want to spend too much money, this is a good transmitter to get. There really aren't many options in this power range. It's like with AM, you either get these tiny things that put out like 100 milliwatts and they're called part 15. You either get something like that, which is only going to go 100 feet, or you get something big like the Hercules. There's not much in between. This is the only guy that makes stuff that's in between. That's, you know, like 10 watts, 40 watts, that kind of thing. So this is a good transmitter. It works pretty well. It doesn't sound nearly as good as the Hercules. It's got a bit of distortion in the bass. You've got to have a fan here, and you've got to have a fan on this thing as well. This one gets very hot. So you've got to have two fans for it. Right here's the DDS. So it's a digital signal generator in here. So it's not a PLL. This design used to be a PLL, and then he changed it. So you've got your power adjustment pot right there. You've got the contrast. See, it says contrast. You've got the audio adjustment. That's the audio level right there. Then right here is your RF output. So this is where you connect the antenna. Okay, and then you have plus and minus. And then plus again. So there's two pluses and one minus. If I remember correctly, one of them has like 24 volts, the other one has 15 or something like that. He sends a sheet, a documentation with this thing that describes it, so you won't have problems with that. So it's got one main MOSFET right here. It's got a low-pass filter. You can see the low-pass filter right there. The signal's decently clean. It's not the best transmitter, but it's pretty good. It's not a PWM. It is a DDS, but it's not a PWM, so it's not very efficient. So you have to put a good fan here because it gets kind of warm. So what you want to do with this thing is you get a case, get a box. Basically, here's what I recommend. I have a second one of those things that I just showed you, and I put it in this ham tuner. So here's what I recommend. If you're getting an AM station setup and you're not going to use thousands of watts, you don't want to use the Hercules, you want to use low power. If you want to use low power, get a tuner box, like a ham tuner box, and put the transmitter inside of the tuner. See, this thing has the tuner here, and then it has an artificial ground here. Forget the artificial ground. You don't need that. Just get rid of the artificial ground and use that space to install one of those low power transmitters. Now see, if you're making a perfect station and you have 1,000 watts, you can do a type of antenna like I showed you outside. You can do that type of antenna and you can get good efficiency and you can tune it up and make it perfect. However, if you're using a really low power transmitter and you just want to experiment with AM, you don't want to put up a massive antenna. You just sort of want to get a feel for what the AM is like, how far does it go, what kind of range do I get, without putting up something big. You put it in a tuner box like this. Even though when you're using high powers, I don't recommend using tuners at all. Cut it to the exact right length and do what I said in my other video. But if you're not using high powers and you just want to experiment, then you put it inside of a ham tuner like this. And that way, on the back, you can just connect any length of wire. Just get a long wire, a super long wire, hook it up to this, hook the ground up to a stake, up to a stick that you put in the ground, and there you have your transmitter. A lot easier to use than setting up a huge quarter wave vertical. It's much easier to just have a long wire coming out the back and a ground. So you can see the connections. I just have where it says balance line, I use that for the power supply. So forget about that. Just look at the right there, the wire. That's where you put the wire. Okay. That's where you put the ground, right there. That is, I put an audio cable coming out there. That's how I put the audio in there. And then there's a fan. So that's how it works. So you just get a long wire and get a ground stick. Put the ground stick in the ground and attach a wire to it, and then attach the wire to this, and then have a long wire that goes up into trees or onto a pole or something that goes up high. So that's an easy way to get started on AM. Put it in a tuner box like this. Get one of these things from Cliop on eBay, and it'll work perfectly. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and stay tuned for more AM stuff. Bye.